Congressman, good morning. Welcome back to the program.
Hey, good morning, Brian. It's good to be on your show again, and lots going on in D.C. We are working hard to save America.
All right, well, let's talk about that. I want to first talk about the tariffs. We're going to talk about a couple of big votes coming up, and then an issue before the Armed Services Committee. But obviously, the biggest news of the last week has been President Trump's tariffs. Generally not been good for stock markets around the world. But that's not really the angle I want to ask on, because there seems to be a big debate in the administration. You got a lot of people in Congress trying to influence it. Should the president, in your estimation, leave the tariffs in place, let them work, and we say take our medicine and hope that we get trade balance, or is it better off to use them to make deals and get out of them as quickly as possible?
Well, I'm not President Trump, but he's a very savvy businessman. You look at the results he got in his first administration. He's actually a politician who did what he said he was going to do. And when you do that, you build trust. I think, I don't know if I want to say take your medicine, because I empathize with folks that are struggling in the 5th Congressional District. But I think that's what he's doing. He's doing this to get a better deal. The bottom line is Americans have been taken advantage of. If you look at the tariffs in some of these countries, we would charge 4% tariff on their goods and services, and they would charge up to 84% of tariffs on our goods and services. It's just not fair trade. And as conservatives, we're all about fair trade. And we have a huge trade deficit. And, President Trump is, it's tough right now. I suspect, based on what I've heard Trump say, things get better by the summer. But we can't continue in the direction that we're going, because our country's in big trouble. We're spending more than we're making. It's unsustainable.
Now, budget resolution passed the Senate. You all are going to vote on that today. Do you support the idea of taking the original tax cuts, and that would be about a $4 trillion cost over 10 years, and just sort of assuming that to be baseline, so that even though it will raise the deficit, it won't look like it in the budget?
Well, I got to tell you, one of the reasons we voted on the budget resolution is we were cutting spending, and there's no way we can work on one beautiful bill unless the Senate version and the House version match. Now, the instructions are different. So the Senate version said their instructions said they would reduce spending by $4 billion, and the House version instructions said that we would reduce ours by 1.5 trillion. So the instructions are different, but the resolution is the same, and we have to get through this hurdle so that the committees can begin negotiating what the final one beautiful bill is going to look like. So it's not perfect. There's a lot I don't like, but we can't. Time is an issue, and we've got to get Trump his one beautiful bill so that he can enact his America First agenda. So it's got to get through the Rules Committee. That's going to happen in the next 15, 20 minutes. If it gets through Rules Committee in the next 15, 20 minutes, then we will vote on that today.
And so let me ask you, you certainly have had people like, whether it's Chip Roy, Thomas Massey, talking about voting against this. It doesn't have enough locked-in long-term spending cuts. Do you expect that it will pass as it is if it gets out of the Rules Committee?
Well, I got to tell you, again, this is just how I say it. There's a technical term, but I can't think what that escapes me. This is not the actual budget. It sets us up so we can negotiate. But I think those guys have merit in that it would. I wish it did have more reduced spending. But again, if we fail to pass this, it takes away. If we spend more time negotiating, it gives the Democrats more of an advantage. So Trump only has a small window to turn this country around and pass his America First agenda. So, like I said, we'll find out what happens in 15, 20 minutes, and we'll vote on the floor. But I do understand where Chip Roy is coming from.
Oh, speaking with Congressman John McGuire here on the Morning Line, you all got out of Dodge last week because of a discharge petition that came up over proxy voting. So I'm going to take it that has compressed the schedule. You're talking about being pressed for time. When do we see the next biggest votes coming up? Will there be more than this week?
Well, yeah, we have several votes this week. We've got a couple of CRs that have to do with banking. We're going to roll back some ridiculous Biden overreach, red tape that they put on businesses. So we're going to roll those back. We got the SAVE Act, which I think all Americans should be on board. And that basically says that you have to prove you're an American citizen to participate in American elections. So it puts 6 different ways to prove your identity and requires you to prove that you're an American citizen to vote. Only American citizens should be participating in the voting process. And I think an overwhelming amount of American citizens, Democrat, Republican, Independent, agree with that. I'm excited about that one. Also, we're going after those rogue judges. You know how they're shopping for judges? And so basically it says that, a judge has to stay in their lane and make decisions based on their jurisdiction. They can't do these injunctions that reach across the entire country and stop the Trump president from doing his agenda.
To follow up on that part, I understand that you have just come to Congress. You weren't there when Joe Biden was president, but Republicans love this. Then when they could go to a district judge and have a national injunction, say, stop him for giving student loans or limit abortion access. Now that the shoe is on the other foot, they've got the presidency. Suddenly, it's a problem. I mean, how seriously do we take this? I mean, it's just politics as usual, isn't it? It's just whose ox is gored.
Well, that's the one thing President Trump is doing. He's trying to get rid of politics as usual. A lot of the problems in our country, obviously, is this politicians, I think, have sold our country out. I mean, our national debt if it was $1 trillion, to me, it would be egregious. We're spending more than we're making. And how do you come here with as a bartender and now you're worth millions? So President Trump is against the status quo. He's a disruptor. He's shaking things up quite a bit. But the idea is a better country for all Americans, regardless of your party, your race, religion, or creed. And I support that. I love our country. I fought for our country, and I'm excited to be part of the team.
Now, you are on the Armed Services Committee, and the chairman there, Mike Rogers, along with the chairman on the Senate side, Senator Wicker, I believe it is, are worried that the Department of Defense is going to unilaterally change what they call the combatant command structure and withdraw from NATO's Supreme Allied Command of Europe and cancel modernization plans for U.S. forces in Japan. Do you think the chairman is right to be worried about that? Should the U.S. change that structure with NATO and Japan, or should it stay with what it's got?
So I'd say there are a lot of concerns. You mentioned quite a few things there. First of all, President Trump is the commander-in-chief. And so he has the purview and the authority to make that decision. But a lot of these things it's, I guess the art of the deal. Like I said, President Trump, makes bold changes and he comes back to where things need to be and they get the results. I think what people should do is look at the results. I mean, historically, he has lots of good results and that turned this country around. You remember during his first administration, we had the most booming economy ever. And we've got to get towards that because the definition of insanity is to keep doing what you've been doing and expect different results. So I certainly understand both points of view, but a lot of these things are under review. And, like I said, President Trump oftentimes, makes a very extreme decision. Everybody gets all worked up. And then when things settle down, they're like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. We're in a better place than we were. So I have faith in him as the commander-in-chief to make the best decision.
Well, let's go to something else that I did not know about here. You and Representative Juan Ciscomani have written a letter to Homeland Security and Defense Departments saying that you've got like human traffickers at the southern border using drones, people maybe call unmanned aerial systems. Are they using those to bring drugs and people into the country?
Absolutely. They're gathering information, and we've got rules that are ridiculous. Our bad actors are taking advantage of our laws and our rules to harm American people. And they basically, they're flying over, gathering information, delivering products. But not only that, the big thing that I noticed on the border, because I talked to business owners when I was there, I talked to sheriffs, mayors, ICE agents, Homeland Security, Border Patrol. I talked to the 10th Mountain Division from the E1 all the way up to the general in charge of our security from San Diego to Texas, and I got a complete picture. And I came back and briefed Speaker Mike Johnson and his team, and I briefed the president about it. We are in a reactive position, and we wrote a letter to try to get us more in a proactive position. Here's a story that will shock your audience, but it will not shock you if you're on the southern border. The cartels are a multi-billion-dollar industry, and they will lie, cheat, steal, and they will kill you to get their way. And they are adapting. They're bringing fentanyl in through Canada and everything else to try to keep making that money. But what they're doing is they realize it's hard to prosecute a minor. And so they're going after our 15, 16, 17-year-old kids. And there's a story, and I don't know if I've mentioned on your show that it was a crazy story. Basically, a 15-year-old girl with a baby, they sent her a text saying, we want you to steal your grandmother's car, come to the border and pick up these people. So she puts her kid in a car seat. She steals her grandmother's car. She goes to the southern border and picks up these people, and she's following a drug van. And on the way north into America, the police show up. So they send her a text and they say, if you run that police car off the road, we'll give you an extra $1,000. And she did that with those people and her baby in the car seat. Now, everybody survived, but that ban of drugs got away. And the problem with that is over 100,000 people a year in America are dying from this fentanyl overdose. I call it Chinese chemical warfare because it's being made in China, coming across the southern border, and it's poisoning the American people. China believes that everything can be used as a weapon and should be used as a weapon, so they're poisonous. If Xi Jinping said no more fentanyl, it would go away tomorrow. Also, what I found out on the border from every agency that I met with is through backdoor methods, China is weaponizing immigration. They are behind this financial push for these 20 million people coming into our country illegally because they want to overwhelm our resources. If your police system can handle 100 people and they bring in 1 million, you're overwhelmed. If your school system can handle 100 people and they bring in 1 million people, your school system is overwhelmed. If your hospitals can handle 100 people and they bring in 1 million people, you're overwhelmed. So they're weaponizing immigration, and they are poisoning our people with this overdose epidemic with fentanyl. And so I'm working on being able to be proactive against drones and everything else, not reactive.
I've got to finish up with a listener question here as we're speaking with Congressman John McGuire. And Alan wants to know, what's up with you and Bob Good, and that the former congressman still apparently has a Facebook page where he's identified as a congressman. He's making the rounds to government meetings and functions where you might expect a congressman to go. Are you expecting he is going to run against you again in 2 years? Has there been any kind of a rapprochement between the two of you or anything like that?
I got to tell you, I don't pay him much thought. I'm so focused on saving our country. We've got so many problems. And like I said, we've got this drug overdose. We've got human trafficking. That's so important to me. So important to me. By the grace of God, we got President Trump back in the White House so that our country has a second chance. And that reminds me of a story, if you don't mind. This is a very important story. I don't know if you know, I was abandoned as a child. My sister and I attended 9 different elementary schools and foster homes. But on November 5th, the grace of God, we got President Trump back in the White House. My younger brother got promoted to brigadier general, and I got elected to Congress. And my brother and I went up to my dad and said, if you hadn't fought so hard to get sober, he wouldn't be a brigadier general and I wouldn't be a member of Congress. I believe this is where God wants me to be right now. I've got a lot of energy and I'm working hard to get victories for the people in the 5th Congressional District. And that's what I'm focused on. I'm not focused on the past. It's a free country. My primary opponent can do whatever he wants, but I feel very confident in what we're doing, and I think we'll be fine. In fact, I don't know if you know, President Trump endorsed me last week. I'm the first Republican in the United States endorsed for re-election.
Yeah, I saw that. He's not going to forget Bob Good and the whole thing with Governor DeSantis. I think we can safely assume that. Congressman John McGuire, thank you for joining us this morning.
Yeah, and one more point, Brian, if you don't mind.
Sure, go for it.
If you need my help, and I don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, or Independent, we are working hard to solve problems for people in the 5th everywhere. But you can't burn every bridge you can't insult everyone you meet and expect to get reelected. If you said, John, I need your help, and I say, I'm sorry, I can't help you because I burned all these bridges, that's not how it works. I'm up here meeting as many people as I can in the district and in D.C. so that when you need help, I got a better chance of doing it. So that's what we're doing, and I'm excited to be part of it.
All right, Congressman John McGuire, thanks for talking with us, and we'll speak again soon.
All right, God bless you. Bye.